Hello, I'm here with the slightly smaller Matthew Holmes.
Hello, I'm back. I'm still a hobbit.
If I sit back, then we look roughly the same. Okay, so I don't normally do live streams on Thursday. I try to avoid clashing with any of my other favourite streams, and I'm also a moderator on the Critical Drinkers channel. And they're streaming right now. Good to see you, Brogu.
Hello, Brogu.
Thanks for coming in. It's good. So this is Matthew's last night in London.
Last night in the UK on the Outcasts.
Yeah.
So, had a week of lots of movies and yeah.
So we just watched another movie today. What did we watch today?
We just watched The Battle of Britain.
Watched The Battle of Britain for the first time with Michael Caine, Christopher Plummer, Laurence
Well,
Olivier.
you've seen it a lot of times. I've never seen it before.
Yeah. Well, I watched it for the first time with you.
Yeah. But,
David Macy's in the house. How can there only be two people watching it? There's three people here. So maybe Keith and Brogu are like sitting in the same lounge.
Maybe the algorithm's not that great at exactly telling us who's there. Hello, David Macy.
Okay, so we're going to put that up. There we go. Retro review discussion of Rise of the Footsoldier and The Long Good Friday. So Matt saw these films in reverse order. He saw Rise of the Footsoldier
first, and then the next night we saw the.
So should we talk about them in that order? I think we should talk about them one after the other because they're.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely talk about
one. Okay, all right. So we're going to talk about Rise of the Footsoldier first, which is now a film that has spawned no less than 5 sequels, and the trailer for the 5th sequel actually dropped today. Funny enough.
Yes,
we saw that.
Yep.
It looked pretty much what it said on the tin. Fairly violent. Lots of people with shooters and Craig Fairbrass looking appropriately mean. So I could talk about that film more, but we're not going to talk about that film today. We're going to talk about the first Rise of the Footsoldier movie, which came out in 2007. Can we get a bigger image than that? Let's go with that. Can we do that? I guess that's. So it was a sort of, I think financially, the film did quite well. It was a big hit on DVD, really big hit on DVD, really big hit on Blu-ray. They've just released an uncut, re-edited edition with even more sex and more violence in it, if you can believe that's possible. So
it's funny. This film has very little presence in Australia. I've never heard of this film until you mentioned it the other night. Never heard of it, and I don't ever remember seeing this film available on Australian shelves as a DVD or as a Blu-ray.
Right.
I think it seems to very much have found its audience here in the UK because I don't recall seeing it. I mean, we got Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and things like that, but we didn't. I just honestly, unless there's some other Aussies that can tell me otherwise, I certainly had no idea about this film.
So you hadn't heard of it before. Had you heard about the Range Rover murders, which is a bit of a sort of an iconic?
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Never heard of it. Not at least not me in Australia. I'd be curious to know if this film does actually have I'm just checking now to see if this film even has an Australian release version of this movie on available on DVD.
Right.
I'm just gonna have a look.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Have a quick look. So, we'll talk about the production a little bit. So it came out in 2007. It's based on the Rettendon Range Rover murders. It's not the first film to cover that topic. The first film was Essex Boys with Sean Bean, which was made in the 90s. But Essex Boys was really a total work of fiction. It didn't attempt to tell the true story of what happened at all. I saw that film at the cinema. It was okay. It was nothing special. It was very forgettable. Rise of the Footsoldier was the brainchild of actor-producer Terry Stone, who is also in the film. Inside Man, by the way, is with us, but his device is not connected. So I better let me drop him a message quickly. We'll talk about the cast. So Ricky Hartnett plays the lead.
Mm-hmm.
Carlton Leach is kind of the story of the rise of Carlton Leach from
message Gary.
to kind of minor kind of football hooligan to more influential gangster, shall we say? What did you think of Ricky Hartnett's performance in the lead, Matt?
To be honest, I thought it was pretty one-dimensional. I didn't find. I'm not sure if it's just the character, the way it's written, or the way it's performed. I think he was. I felt he was a bit one-dimensional. He was sort of playing the same note most of the way through. Not terrible. Not a terrible performance. Certainly looked the part. Certainly, you could see he got pretty jacked up for the role and all that. But he was a pretty unlikable character and he's a horrible narcissistic pig, actually. And I think,
is that more the fault of the script? Do you think? Did he have a lot to play with in terms of playing layers?
Well, not really, because this film didn't give him layers. So,
right.
And I don't know as he was strong enough an actor to give it the layers that weren't on the page.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, he was a bit, I don't know, he wasn't a character that he was, unlike Henry Hill, say from Goodfellas, which this film has clearly got some DNA of Goodfellas in it.
It's definitely got some influences in terms of the narrative.
He didn't feel as compelling a character to me watching. He just seemed like a thug. It just a sort of like not a brainless thug, just a thug.
What could have, in terms of performance or script, shall we say, what could have improved that? And you're a complete outsider coming. You don't know the story.
No. And I know they're trying to be realistic. I know they're trying to be true to the true guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he just needed a bit more. I don't know. I think he just needed a bit more shades of just a few more shades. He seemed to be on two modes, just sort of happy party or just an arsehole.
Right.
It didn't seem to, I don't know. You didn't really get much. You didn't really get much else with him that was
whereas with
endearing.
Whereas with Henry Hill, even though again he's a dangerous and a bad man, I guess you could argue in Goodfellas you quite like him.
Oh yeah, you do. I don't know why we like him, but I think it's because we see him. He takes a beating. Like as a kid, you see he kind of gets knocked around, gets beaten by his dad.
Yeah.
But you see he really wants something. He's really quite earnest, and he's also he still has got a little bit of empathy.
Got a cheeky sense of humor.
Yeah, and when he sees the guy, when the guy comes in bleeding with his hand, he helps him, and you can tell there's a bit of empathy there. This guy sort of had some empathy when it came to looking out for his boys and so on.
Yeah.
But overall, he just treated women so horribly, and he was just such a ruthless meathead that he wasn't an endearing character. And I think the actor pulled off that side of that character very well because I really didn't like him. But I don't know. I'm not sure. I've never seen this guy on anything else, and so I haven't really got any other thing to compare him to.
You might have seen him in 28 Days Later. He was one of the soldiers.
Was he?
Yeah, Ricky. I've seen Ricky act on stage. I've met him.
You mean the 28 Days Later, the first one?
Yeah, the very first one.
One of those soldiers at the end.
Yeah, the sort of operating in the house.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't recall him in that, but yeah.
No, he's one of. So I mean, okay. So talking about the other cast, we've got Roland Munnekin, who plays the unfortunate Craig. I like him as an actor. I like him as an actor a lot. I've seen him in a lot of other things. He's very interesting. I think his character was suitably he's annoying and sort of a bit of a pedestal for the others to stand on, really.
Yeah, I actually don't remember this character.
He's the one who, they do the flashback into his background, and his mother had an affair with that young guy who came in and killed his dad. And so
is that him?
Yeah, the whole flashback is.
Yeah, okay.
You've got to feel sorry for Craig. He didn't have the best start in life.
Yeah, that guy.
He's the one who comes in, and when we first meet him, he's got long hair.
That's right.
And he goes, "Oh, fuck me, mate. It's only Tom Cruise. I'll have to get my girlfriend to get an autograph for you."
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So he's sort of like the brunt of a lot of punishment of the.
But he's a bit of a nasty character.
Oh yeah, no, I mean he's a nasty character because he's a toe rag. He's the one who kills the dealer with a hot shot, and we know that he killed that guy in real life. So you don't feel a lot of sympathy for him. Neil Maskell, who plays more of a supporting role, he's an actor that's actually getting bigger and bigger parts all the time now. I really like him. I rate him as an actor. He's Coralie Rose, who plays Carlton's love interest. I think she's very good in the film.
Yeah, I thought most of the females were really good in this. They showed that, I don't know, the effect on this sort of life that has on them emotionally and so on.
Patrick Regis has a really small part in the movie, but I think he's really great.
He was strong. I remember him quite in the movie. He's the guy that ends up
killing himself.
Yeah.
We have the inside man.
Oh, is he here?
Oh, good morning. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
Hello.
Yeah, good to see you inside man. You had a few problems with the device connecting there. I was trying to put you in a little bit earlier.
I had a couple of minor technical mishaps, let's just say.
You also had a couple of weird people come in and start putting strange comments in the chat, so I had to get the hammer. Actually, I had to ban 2 people from the channel for the first time.
What were they doing?
Oh, wow.
So, here and here, look. Here and here. Probably won't talk about that sort of thing again because you just give those kind of people steam, doesn't it? But they'll just make
exactly. Yeah,
same comments in the chat. So
you'll have to excuse my I beg your pardon. You'll have to excuse my my slight lateness to this. So I just wanted to wondered if you could just quickly sort of fill me in as where we are at the moment.
Well, listen, dude, we've only just started. So Matt saw Rise of the Footsoldier first a few nights ago, and then he saw Long Good Friday. So we're doing each film in turn. So you haven't missed Long Good Friday yet, which I'm sure you're very pleased with.
Yeah. And I didn't even know these films existed until this week. I'd never heard of these films.
Really?
Never heard of either of these movies. Sorry, I'm just getting my water I left over here.
No. For some reason, they don't. These 2 films don't have a very strong presence in Australian culture.
Rise of the Footsoldier, I can understand, but Long Good Friday, I'm quite surprised about.
No, it's not. It's not a film I've ever heard mentioned amongst Australian when we talk about films. It's Long Good Friday. No.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people that have seen it, but it's not a film that I don't think it's really penetrated our zeitgeist, the Australians.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I can understand that.
Just going to say hi to Gideon Saeed. We all love some spam. Yeah, sure. In the can, mate. But yeah, so what we're doing is we're talking about Rise first, and we're just talking about the cast.
Right. Okay.
Matt has pointed that one of the problems with Rise of the Footsoldier is that the main character there's very little to like about him.
No. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a problem for the whole film. I would agree it's a problem for the whole movie.
Yeah.
But
no, it creates the world. I think the world that it creates feels quite realistic.
Yeah, I would agree.
And ugly, and probably how it is. And it's quite powerful with its violence and its depictions of abuse and so on. It does that really well. But
Ian Virgo's great in the movie.
Yeah, he's just an ugly character. It's an ugly world with ugly characters.
Yeah. Another character. She's Laura Belmont is good in the film. And Kirsten wearing
quite good.
Really good, I thought. This was the film actually that made me sit up and take notice.
I actually felt the females in this were all stronger than the males.
They were, and their roles were all super underwritten.
Yes,
but they were really good, especially the girls in the limo.
Yeah. But they stood, even though they had little screen time, they stood out.
Yeah,
a lot more in my mind. They stand out better. If I try to think of the men now, it's a bit hazy, but
because like all the men are like, you fucking can't.
Yeah, they all
kind of met. A lot of those characters meshed. If you've only watched it the one time.
Yeah. I can't pick one from the other. They're just all meat-headed,
I
white
completely
meat-headed.
agree with. I absolutely agree with both of you. I think there's no kind of demarcation between any of the no border, no barrier, no gap between any of the
No.
characters, and there is
Except one guy
as
with
we
a
both
bad
said.
wig.
Well,
Yeah.
one guy with a bad wig. That might be this guy.
This guy with a bad wig. He
Mm,
stood out,
mm,
but it's only because he had this ridiculously terrible bad wig
mm.
that is painfully obvious. So,
But they are very very dislikable. I think.
mm,
I think the characters, for me, all of the characters are very dislikable. I don't necessarily think that that's anything to do with the actors or the act.
No, there's some. I mean, there's some
the
good.
acting's not terrible.
There's some good acting in here. Billy
Yeah,
Murray is very good.
personally, I
Fairbrass
think it's
very good.
well, it is to do with the writing. Everything starts with the writing.
Yeah.
It's not my. It's you know.
Oh, Gary's got some sound issues tonight. Oh,
Yeah, sorry, Gary. We weren't talking over the top of you before. It's just you're cutting in and out.
That's
Inside
okay.
Man, that you have some audio issues. You're cutting. Oh, I think we lost him. Oh, he's back. Inside Man, we're having some issues with you. You're cutting in and out, but you're back.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll zip out quickly and I'll refresh and come back in.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. All right, I'll bring you back in a sec.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Yeah.
well, let's.
No, as Inside Man was saying, they are unlikable. In fact, when the three dudes were all killed in the Range Rover,
Yeah.
I was actually kind of happy because I disliked them so much. They were such horrible people. Especially the guy that went into the cafe when the pizza order didn't go well. This guy, and he goes and bashes the guy's head, and it's like. So when he got shot, I was actually like, well, finally, because this guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
I didn't care, and I think that's probably one of the problems. I didn't care about these people because they're so horrible.
But the thing is that the funny thing is it's Carlton Leach's story, but for the last act of the film, he's barely in it.
That's right. That's a problem.
That's another problem.
That's something we discussed straight after watching it. Is that I couldn't quite figure out whose story this was. Right. Whereas when we watch Goodfellas or Godfather or any other gangster film, you know whose perspective is this, who's the protagonist. But it's all him, and then he sort of becomes a supporting character in his own story, and then it turns on the Range Rover guys. Yeah. So that's just. But that I know they're trying to stick to the story, like they're trying to stick to history, and history doesn't conform to 3-act structures.
Yeah, sure.
But that they needed to work that better. And also when he was crying, like when he found out about it, he's all upset. I couldn't understand why he was upset because these guys were such jerks.
Brogu, I wouldn't say don't see this movie. Sorry, let me put the mic over here. I'm probably sounding really far away. I wouldn't say don't see this movie because there's a lot I do like about it, and I'm gonna say that in a minute. But I do think that the problems that it's got issues wise are pretty big.
I just don't think it's got broad appeal. I think if you're interested in this subject matter, I think if you like a gangster film, you like some good violent, hard-edged movie, and if you're interested in the story, I think this film's got value. But if you are a bit more of a regular, normal cinema goer who wants to see something, it's not as accessible to a regular audience, I don't think.
I tend to think that this is more of a crime film than a gangster film now. Having re-watched it, it doesn't really come across as being an actual kind of gangster movie because these people.
No, you're right.
Like
it is a crime film, isn't it? Yeah.
They don't really feel like gangsters. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't feel like gangsters in the highly organized sense, do they? Like that sort of mafia.
They weren't. They were actually fairly. These were fairly low-level criminals.
Yeah,
I mean, they ran a few doors and they sold some pills.
But they didn't seem to have a big overarching plan for politicians and
no.
They were very much the street level.
No, and
underbelly.
Hence, I suppose the the title Footsoldier.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I remember reading. I thought the critics were really they were pretty harsh about this film when it came out, and I remember reading one of them's summary of charts the charts the rise of Carlton Leach from football hooligan to doorman, and I thought that was a bit unfair because the film covers all the many pockets he had his fingers in.
Yeah,
quite well.
I wouldn't say he's the doorman. I mean,
he was running doors, but he was dealing drugs. He was doing security for people. He was getting answers out of people. He was torturing people. So he was
horrible.
He was fairly multifaceted in terms of his gun for hire kind of.
You know what this film was it did feel a little bit like, and forgive me if I'm offending people that may be watching, but this feels like, you know how when people, like the Italian mafia, they watch films like Goodfellas and Godfather, and they actually love it. It's like porn for gangsters. Even though us regular folks see it as cautionary tales, they actually really love it. This film sort of feels like the kind of genre and the type of movie that people like this in the story would actually really love, because it's their world. They're seeing themselves, and they probably think this is great. Oh, cool. I know this world. I know these kind of people, and they enjoy it. But I think if you're not part of that world, it's a bit hard to get into this world.
And the funny thing is, I mean, I saw sort of growing up, I say growing up, but being of the kind of age that I would have been when all of this sort of kicked off, when the reality, when the real thing sort of kicked off. I knew people that were sort of involved in that kind of sleazy sort of underbelly, and when this came out, it almost spawned a kind of a neo-mockney, cockney, gangster, hard man type wannabe character.
They almost embrace it.
Yeah, not that I think that movies have any kind of influence over violent behavior or anything like that, but it kind of this one kind of almost endorsed, felt like it was endorsing this kind of behavior.
It did. I have to agree with that.
Yeah, I still know people that feel that this is that this is like way.
I get that. I totally get that. I can see how the movie would almost make you go, like, it's a little bit glorifying. It sort of walks that fine line of, what is this thing doing? Is it glorifying these people, or is it?
Yeah.
I remember renting it on DVD, right?
It's a bit exploitative like that.
And because I didn't see it at the cinema, I missed it at the cinema. I remember renting it on DVD. I quite liked it overall. But I remember walking back to the video shop with it, and I was walking along like this, and I was going, "You fucking cunt!"
Yeah.
And it was just because it was all going around in my head.
Yeah.
I just seen it, and I thought, what the fuck am I doing?
That shit's rubbing off on you.
Yeah, and it was.
I feel, but it is. You feel a bit dirty after watching it. I feel like, wow, this is a bit of a dirty film about dirty people.
It's definitely a voyeuristic look into a dirty world. But I have to give it credit for that, because that world does exist, and those people do exist, and I think
they capture the world very well.
I think that's one of the things they did get right. They got the world. They got the grease and the grime of that world. They got some of the characters right.
I think you're absolutely right there, because some of the characters that I knew around about this kind of time, every last one of them, every man jack of them, were thoroughly dislikable. Right. So if this was what they were aiming to do, if this was what Julian Gilby was aiming to do, he absolutely pulled it off.
Yeah. No, and I've met Julian, and he's a really nice chap, actually.
Yeah.
What I felt it kind of lacked was it felt a little bit television.
It did. It was very televisual.
It felt television. Yeah. And it just didn't quite have while the acting's not bad, mostly, the wig guy, not so much, but I felt that the acting, the writing, the direction, just overall captures the gritty world, but the quality of the filmmaking kept it at more of a TV level. It didn't cross over into that cinematic level.
It did try and be epic.
It did try. You can tell it's trying.
It tried really hard to be epic, because they went in with that. Well, before we're going to tell you about this, we're going to talk about it all started with football.
Yeah,
and I liked that whole opening 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
Is pretty, you know.
It's curiously interesting.
You race through that world, and you race through Carlton's first marriage, and it's a really good backstory that set up a lot of things. But I felt that a stronger writer could have played more nuance with the lead character.
Yeah, it needed nuance.
And I think he needed to have more humor, because I've seen Carlton being interviewed a lot, and he's quite a funny guy.
And I think if you had brought that humor out, it would have made him more likable and forgivable for the horrible things he does.
Yeah, I think he needed to be a bit more human.
Yes, because he was just a thug.
Because
he was just a thug.
The only time we kind of really saw his good side was in the way he cared for his men, which is brief. It's in the film, but it's brief.
It is brief.
And then the scene with Tony Tucker just before the murders, where he's, you know, Tucker's saying, "Look, that's why I like you, Carlton. You never wanted anything from me," and he says, "Yeah, you know, I'd do the same for you. Of course I would." You believe him there. But that's not enough.
No, it's not enough. Especially when he's so horrible to his wives and girlfriends.
Yeah.
He's shockingly toxic.
You just needed like a scene where, I mean, I know you see them making love and all that in the wake of them taking lots of pills and blah, blah. But you kind of needed a scene where he came back with some flowers. You kind of needed a scene where he did something really nice.
Which Henry Hill does.
For his family. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you just didn't. Like, if they'd had a scene where
you had to balance
they were out on a night out and some guy tried to crack onto his woman and he took him out and then looked after her, I think that would have just sort of made him more like, because I think he had those sides to him, but all we got to see were kind of mainly his horrible.
I do think this may, I mean, I don't know whether I'm, you know, sort of whether you would echo anything that I'm about to say, but I do think that it kind of comes across to me as a little bit of an ego trip for the lead character for Carlton. It really does. The whole thing is kind of it's almost like a look at me, look at what I've done.
I don't think the real Carlton had script approval though. So Terry Stone bought the rights to the book.
Yeah,
the book is actually quite different to the movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
especially the humor. There's a lot of humor in the book. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he had influence. I think he's reasonably happy with the film.
Yeah,
but
I think because it shows that he was a hard kind of person. You know, and of course, when you've got people that are quite. You tend to find that people that are hard are very ego driven anyway. It's all about
it's
all about the hard image.
Yeah,
you know, and wanting to be perceived as being very, very hard.
But I guess in a way, the movie and the filmmaking and the movie itself is a bit like the character in that it's trying to be like, look how tough and hard our movie is, mate. You know, when it's like, well, you can do that without being. It's a bit forced. I felt.
Very.
It's like, come on, just like back it off a bit. Give us some nuance. I can tell this world's gritty and hard. You don't need to dial it up to 11 and keep it there. Let's get some variation.
I mean, and actually, if you watch the performance of Bill Murray in the film, he's very, very restrained. Now, I think Craig Fairbrass, who was one of the more experienced actors of the
I think he's an excellent actor. I think Craig Fairbrass
he was right not to dial it down for Pat Tate, because Pat Tate was a psychopath.
Oh, was he the guy? He's the big guy in the Range Rover.
So he was right not to dial it down with the language, and he had to be a very forceful presence.
But he wasn't the lead, was he?
No.
That's right.
But you can look at other people who were really going all with the can't. I don't think Bill Murray's character even swears in the movie. He maybe swears once, but he plays him very reserved, more calculating, more cold, more thoughtful before he moves his pieces on the chessboard. So,
I actually think. I beg your pardon for interrupting, but I actually do think. For me, Craig Fairbrass is the one that really kind of I believe. I believe him.
Yeah, me too.
He really. I mean, to be fair, I think there's very little that he could be in where he doesn't actually shine, and he really shone in this. I think he I believe him. I think he's real, and he does what an actor really does. If a good actor really does well, and that is plays the role to its absolute, to the nth degree. I think he's excellent in it.
Which character is him?
He's the one who cuts the guy's mouth with the pizza cutter. Do you
point him out on the screen so I can.
This guy.
Oh yeah. You believed? Oh, he was.
This is your last chance for a peaceful night, mate. Give her what she wants. Or
he was
going to come down there. And
he was scary, but then again, he was the guy in Cliffhanger, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was.
He's always been terrifying, that actor.
Yeah.
You totally believe that he would come in and rip your head off.
Yeah, there's something. There's almost like a veneer that he has that you kind of think there's definitely something underneath that veneer. There's definitely something, something below that is bubbling away that's ready to burst out. But he's excellent. I love him.
Let me give shout outs to some of the other cast who had really small roles. Who actually, when the film came out, I predicted they were going to go on to big things. I like Patrick Regis. He should be doing more. Who played Eddie, who kills himself.
Oh yeah, he was good.
Yeah.
I remember him.
He was very good. Jason Mazza, who plays Rob, has gone on to be a producer. He's acted in loads of other stuff. He went in Bulletproof and all kinds of things. So he's just got married. Congratulations to Jason. I really like Mark Killeen in this film. He's got a great scene where he talks about after they've been tortured, and he really goes for it with his acting in that scene, and he's really good. Unfortunately, he's just done a part in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
So that's fair play to him. He's an actor and a jobbing actor, and of course the paycheck's always important.
Yeah, at least they'll pay you well, I guess. Working for a Disney
there
film.
he is in Game of Thrones season 3. He was good in that. I remember him. He's
got a good look.
I like Mark Killeen. He's a very naturally gifted actor. He's only got 25 credits. Why this guy isn't working more, I don't know.
25 is a lot more than some actors get.
No, that's true. But yeah, I mean, I'm surprised he's not kind of busy all the time. Dave Logano is great in the film. He's only in it a little bit. He sadly passed away. He is the actor who unfortunately died, sort of got caught out doing that walk in Death Valley. And I think he got caught out with not enough water and couldn't get back to his car. And he died.
That's really sad.
Big man, heat exhaustion. And, he was very much a physical presence over.
He looks, he looks huge.
And he actually was also in Bonded by Blood, which is also effectively a kind of another story about the same thing.
Is it part of the series of this Rise of the Foot
It's not
Soldier?
part of the Footsoldier series, but it is also produced by Terry Stone. He's playing the same role, but with no wig this time. Why they made this as well, I'm not really sure.
Can I ask this? Why this obsession with these Range Rover murders? Why is this so interesting?
Because it was such a mystery at the time. It was it was kind of
because someone did it and they just didn't know who did it.
It wasn't necessarily that. It's because the connection with the Essex underworld, if you like.
Right.
And there was rumor after rumor about all kinds of people that were involved in this. Some of them were very, very big underworld names that I'm not going to mention. But
so it was really just a mystery thing.
Well, you remember you're presented with the 3 scenarios. This might have happened. They might have been killed by the police. They might have been killed by the Exil brothers. And people still don't know. And one of the guys, by the way, who went down for it, he was released. He's out. And served time for good behaviour. He got a few years off his sentence and he's out. He still says he didn't do it. The other guy is still in there. But yeah, I mean, so it's still like talked about and everybody's
it is
a different version of what happened. Mitchell Lewis, I just want to talk about briefly. There he is in The Journey that I directed him in, so it's on his show reel. He was one of the first actors I ever directed in my very first play about the Hillsborough football disaster. He had hair.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, he had hair back then. In fact, you know what, guys? I can show you that.
Is the Hillsborough football disaster, is that thing at the Liverpool?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
We called it the Liverpool Crush in Australia. I remember that very distinctly. I remember that I was only very young when that happened. And I remember seeing the photographs on the front of our newspapers, and I was horrified by that.
Yeah.
As a kid, that really disturbed me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they opened up the gates and the people were getting crashed against the fence. That gave me nightmares as a kid.
Well, there's a really good movie about that called Hillsborough, which is a drama series, but it's hard to watch it.
Yeah.
It's probably not one you're going to want to race to
No.
watch. But Mitchell,
It's Jimmy McGovern, isn't it? Is it Jimmy McGovern?
it's Jimmy McGovern, and it's also, I directed my first play about Hillsborough because of that movie. Eden and Ford was in my second feature film, 30. I knew him as Alan Ford then. He's a really good guy, and he's a really good actor. And again, it's a shame he's only got 30 credits. He's one of the ones at the beginning where, you know, he gets out, where they have a problem with the coach, and he runs out and chases after the coach driver, and he's just part of the hooligan gang at the beginning. It's also him on the phone with Carlton going, I'm down at the house and everything's okay, and then you hear the woman scream. That's his voice. I'd know his voice anywhere. Anyway, he's a good guy. Again, I don't know why he hasn't worked more, because he's a pretty good actor.
I don't think talent is really the thing that.
No.
Yeah, because we all know many incredible actors that just are all struggling for a job, you know.
I really rate Danny Midwinter. I've met him in person a couple of times. Really lovely bloke. He was also in Human Traffic, which we are going to do a stream on another time.
Oh, right, yeah.
And he has been working. He's got 61 credits. He's just done 6 episodes of Miss Scarlet and the Duke. So 24 hours in London. I like Danny. Got a lot of time for Danny. Lovely bloke. Been through a fair bit. And then there's quite a few people that have gone in, who've gone on to do producing, like the guy who played the pizza manager.
Right.
He's a producer now, because I met him at another screening of another film, and he was one of the producers.
Good luck to him. Good luck to him.
Yeah, so there's various people that have had really tiny parts in it that have gone on and done other things. Andrew Loveday's got a cameo in it. He's now acting in some of the more recent. I think he had a fairly big role in the last Footsoldier film. Okay, so the things I like about it is it tried to be a bigger movie than maybe it ultimately achieved, but I like the fact that it tried. I like some of the acting. I like some of the scenes. I like the first 20 minutes. I think it's very strong. I think the recreation of the murders is very strong.
Yeah,
and I like the fact that we're presented with 3 scenarios, and you're still not really sure what really happened. But the problems that the film has, as Matt mentioned earlier, are fairly major. One of which is we kind of lose the lead character's story for the last third.
Yeah, we lose the lead character almost. Yeah,
it's not really his story.
No,
and that all of the characters, except for some of the women, are hugely unlikable. Therefore, you don't really care about what happens to anybody.
No, it's hard to invest.
Not really
stay
even
invested.
Not really even Carlton. You know.
Yeah, it's hard to stay invested in them.
But it does make you want to say the word "can't" a lot when you finish watching it.
So which I do anyway.
Yeah. So
yeah, I would say its strength is in its ability to portray the ugly, dark world very convincingly.
Yeah.
And the violence, and it's very visceral. It's a very visceral film, and packs a punch. But yeah, I think as a film, from a film craft perspective, I think the script is heavily flawed, and I think that the flaws in the script have trickled upwards, and some of the cast don't help it. So it trips and stumbles.
I do agree that the script is very heavily flawed. There doesn't feel to be any real direction when it comes to.
No, I think it lacked their focus. It just needed you just needed to focus that script. You had all your elements, just needed to. Yeah, just needed a bit
maybe this is kind of the inexperience of the director at the time, maybe, and that's not me trying to make excuses, but it has its following, it has its audience. I'm not into this whole kind of mockney cockney gangster thing.
No.
personally. But
Although-
there is an audience for them. I think
Sure.
in terms of the cast, I think you've got some excellent actors in there. I mean, some
Kieran
seriously
Booth's
good
gone on
talent
to-
in there.
This guy.
Yeah, there are some good actors in it.
This guy had a tiny role. He's gone on to really big things, as David Macy pointed out. Kieran Booth. So he had a tiny role in this. He's done 25 episodes of Warrior, 4 episodes of Rules of the Game, 13 episodes of Beowulf: Return to Shield, 8 episodes of Da Vinci's Demons. He's now got 53 credits as an actor. So good on you. Good on you, Kieran Booth. Kieran Booth.
Yeah, it's probably gone further than even the lead has. But yeah, no, I agree. I think there's some very strong actors in it, and then I think I think littered throughout there are some not so strong, and I think that's what makes it for me a very uneven experience. It's an uneven viewing experience.
I always find it very difficult to blame, to really sort of lay any blame at the feet of the actors when the script isn't particularly good. When they're given something to work with, and it's as poor as this, and I do think it's poor. I don't have any really nice things to say about it. I think you said it perfectly by saying it's ugly, and it is ugly. It's obviously meant to be an ugly film, and it is very televisual. I couldn't have said it better myself. However, I couldn't ever blame the actors for working, for the material they worked with.
I think I should say something in defense of Julian Ghibli, who directed it, and his brother was the second unit director on it. And there's a lot of really good second unit direction on the film, because a lot of the B-roll footage that they got, you can tell it's great stuff,
Yeah.
But I know that there was a lot of rewrites that was happening while the film was even shooting. So at one point, Ray Winston was doing a voiceover for the movie, and he was like the older voice of Carlton Leach, and they actually did pay him to do that voiceover. So I was told.
Oh, he actually lives 2 minutes from me, Ray.
Could you run down the road and confirm that for us? I mean, literally, that's what I heard. And then for some reason, whatever, that didn't work. It didn't work in the edit, so they cut that. Then there was another ending, beginning and ending that didn't work as bookends, and because the film does have a strange ending for me. Carlton has a breakdown. The Range Rover's been carried off. We're told the guys are dead, and he tools up and defends his house, but I don't really see it having a size. There isn't a scene. I would have liked to have seen a scene with him and his missus sitting down quietly, and him apologizing for just the way he's treated her, and maybe saying, "Look, I don't know if we're going to be able to fix us, but I need you to know this. I'm out."
Yeah, that would have been redeemable. Very redeemable.
Something like that is kind of missing.
Yeah, to redeem the character. I totally agree.
David says it's aimed at impressionable teenage boys. I think that's a little unfair. I think there's a lot of impressionable middle-aged men that it's aimed at as well. But
whether intentional or not, I can see that those boys are gonna gravitate to this. Like they're not gonna see it for a cautionary tale. They're gonna see this as something that they're gonna actually really want to be a part of. The kind of people that do want to go out and fight in football fights. They're going to love this kind of movie.
Yeah, and they do. And they really do.
On that note, then, guys, what are you going to give this on IMDb out of 10, Inside Man?
A very generous 1.
Oh wow,
that's okay. That's harsh.
Okay,
and that's being extremely generous.
Matt,
I was going to give it a 5.
5. Yeah, I give it a 6. It's a 6 from me. It's got a lot of problems. I think some of them could have been fixed. So perhaps we'll pass it on for a drink of fixes.
Fixes. I usually a film. Would I rush to see this again? No, probably not. Probably won't. It's one of those films I've gone, okay, I've seen it. I learned something about the British underworld. That's what a world. Woo! Don't want to ever be part of that world.
Yeah, Matt didn't rush out to buy the Blu-ray, and by the way, he bought a lot of Blu-rays while he was there.
Quite a lot, but that was
Blu-rays.
And I have seen it is available in Australia on Blu-ray, but I will also be passing that by.
He even influenced me, and I purchased 4 Blu-rays.
He did.
What did you get?
I had a bad influence on him.
Matt was a bad influence
because
2 of them are even films I've got already on DVD. And he made me buy them.
I didn't make him do anything.
He
I
did.
didn't make.
Totally his
I
fault.
didn't make anyone do anything.
So I got 71, which
Right.
is such a good movie, and my paratrooper.
Very good.
That's
My
fine.
paratrooper script, the one set in Crete, which by the way you can buy
Yeah.
on Amazon, it is 71, but it's about a German paratrooper estranged from his unit, whilst fighting on the island of Crete. So if you think German Band of Brothers meets 71, that's what my German paratrooper episode is. So
Right.
it's
Okay.
71.
That is a good film, 71.
I also got the
Really enjoyed
director's
that.
cut of Leon, which I don't have. I have
yeah,
the
I got that,
regular
yeah.
cut, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't have it on Blu-ray anyway. Then Matt said, "Oh, look, Lance, there's Starman. You haven't got that." And I'm a big John Carpenter fan. I've also got the vinyl soundtrack to Starman. It's one of my favorite Carpenter films. Very unusual film for Carpenter. All the more reason I like it. And then I also got one of my more favorite sci-fi movies of recent times, which was Life.
Right.
And then Inside Man, I picked up that thing that you wanted. You said if I could find the Blu-ray set of all 3 airport films, could I get it for you? I got that. Got that for you. So
I actually did work on Life.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Fun production.
Listen to his voice. Listen to his voice. It doesn't sound like a fun production.
Problems because of an actor being an Unus?
I can't say. Oh no, my face isn't there, so yeah, I can say. Yeah.
We just had a conversation about an actor that was a complete Unus.
And he's also in this film.
Yeah. So, Mum, I wonder if it's the same person.
Hey, is it male or female?
I can't say.
Can't say.
Let's move on.
That's a conversation. That's an offline
Should we do a top 10 actors that are complete Unus? That could be an interesting. No, we won't do that. Yeah. Right. Okay. So we're going to move on to our second film of the evening. Very different kind of movie. It's kind of in the same genre in a way.
Same subject,
crime, gangster,
British gangster.
A lot of people would argue that Rise of the Foot Soldier is a British gangster film, by the way. I mean, a lot of people would.
Yeah, and those people that want to argue that, I'm not going to fight with you because I don't want to get my head smashed in by a cricket bat.
Why not, Matt?
Yeah,
you can't.
Yeah, so, fine. It's a British gangster film.
Long Good Friday poster, which for some reason Helen Mirren looks terrible on this poster.
Yeah, it's dreadful.
It doesn't look like her, but this is the
especially when she looks so good in the movie. You don't want her looking so bad on the poster.
Yeah, but the Long Good Friday. Many consider this to be the best British gangster film ever made, and indeed, some people say the best British gangster film ever made. Oh, look at that! 10 out of 10 on IMDb. I wonder who gave it that. Before we get into the production, let's talk a little bit about the film for those people that haven't seen it, and we'll go through the cast now, and we'll say what all 3 of us here about it. So the film is all set over basically 3 days, a long Easter weekend,
which is great. I love stories that are contained and focus on a short period of time.
Rise of the Foot Soldier was set over 10 years, so
which is probably also one of its problems when you're trying to, especially a true story, you're trying to tell it over too much time. It actually makes it very hard.
All right, well let's stick with that. So stick with this. Sorry. So it's about Harold Shand, who is the #1 gangster in London at the time. London is going through its regeneration, which actually happened. This is when the East End, these are the people that were planning to rebuild the East End and harness it and rebuild it and so on.
I've got a question. Is this a true story?
No.
So,
although there are elements of truth within.
It's got, because this was the time when people looked at the derelict East London. The docks were no longer really in use.
Yeah.
That kind of trade was dying off. And people said, well, what are we going to do with this area of East London? It's prime for regeneration. And that is where you now have the Docklands. You've got, the convention centre. You've got East City London Airport. Yeah. You've got, Canary Wharf. We've got the DLR. Loads more housing.
And if you remember, Lance, I mean, and obviously it refers to it within the film as well. That Docklands area there, that was cited to be the location for the 1988 Olympics that we were bidding for,
but we didn't win.
But we didn't win,
and we had to wait until 2012 Olympics. That was it. Yeah. God, that seems like a long time ago now. 10 years. Can you believe that's 10 years ago?
I can.
So Harold Chand is on the verge of getting a big deal with the Americans. The Americans' point in case being the mafia, and he has just come back from New York, clinching this deal. The film opens very interestingly with a really long, and I would say very brave for its time, even now, montage sequence, which tells a whole story with absolutely no dialogue. It's all music. You don't hear what anybody says apart from that one line where those guys are getting dragged out the pub and into the car.
Yeah.
And the only other sound pretty much is the glass in the house in Northern Ireland being broken in by the soldiers, and some cars screeching off and things like that. So there's this whole opening sequence where you really don't know what the fuck is happening. Who are these people?
Which I think is good.
Which it
creates a lot of mystery.
It does, and it also makes the film rewatchable because when you watch it second or third time, you understand what you're seeing.
Yeah, you're putting it together faster. Yeah.
So that whole opening sequence is really strong. There are various characters in Harold Chand's organization, but suddenly people start taking out his guys. So he's at war with somebody, but he doesn't know who he's at war with or why. More importantly, and this is a big problem for him. This is his number 2, played by Derek Thompson, who played Charlie on Holby for God knows how long. Helen Mirren was probably only early 20s when she did this role.
I don't know. I think she's in her 30s.
I say she looks like she's in her 30s. She doesn't.
Do we think so?
She looks good, but I think she's in her 30s.
Okay, all right. I'm going to.
Well, what year was this film? I'll find out what year she was born.
81.
But it was shot in 79, released in 1980, actually.
Oh, I thought it was 81.
No, it was.
Oh, right. Okay.
80. Video was probably 81. So Helen Mirren was born.
She was born in 45.
God, she was born in 45.
There you go.
So if it was shot in 79,
I'll work this out with the calculator.
Yes.
Here we go.
If you would, thank you.
1979 minus 1945.
34.
She's 34.
She's 34, and she shot this. God, she looked good. She looked good. I would have put her in like late 20s.
Many 34-year-old women look great, and she's one of them. Well, she was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, she's 77 now, and she still looks lovely. We've gone from good to lovely. That's not a bad sliding scale. Eddie Constantine was quite ill when he shot the movie and was only lived a couple more years afterwards. Stephen Davies, they're playing the local Americans, well, not so local Americans, who have come to make a decision about whether they're going to invest in Harold's plan. Dave King, who played Sharky, who is the Harold's police contact, he was ill also when this was filmed, and he died of cancer shortly after this. Now, those cranes in the background, they're still there as landmarks, and that whole section is still there, but that's now part of what's the convention center called, Inside Man, the one that's near, the one where they do the big Comic-Con and salute and all of that. What's it called? I've forgotten the name of it now.
No,
but it's on the DLR. You have to get off at the DLR. You have to get off at Customs House. Excel. Those cranes are next to the Excel Center. That's where they are, and that's where they. I
swear I saw them in the background in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. In the
well, there's several sets of them
in the boats.
There's several sets of them that still exist in the London Dockland area.
Yeah, I think they're protected now, aren't they?
They are protected. Yeah, they're kind of historical artifacts, as it were. But anyway, Dave King's very good in this.
Very good.
Very good. Bob Hoskins is very good. Charles Court gets blown up, so he's not in it very long. Patty Love is an actress that you would see a lot more of later. She's only got a very small role. Paul Freeman is in it.
Nice seeing him.
Yeah. Paul Freeman.
Belloc.
Yeah, and
it's the only other film I've seen Belloc in, actually.
So then P.H. Moriarty, who plays Razors, who's in the middle, he came to see my play Sticks and Stones about Northern Ireland, so I got to meet him.
I was not. Well, for me, it was nice seeing so many of the Lock, Stock, Snatch crew. It's like you could totally tell that Ritchie had pilfered.
Yeah,
so many people from this, obviously a classic British film for his Lock, Stock, and Snatch.
But it's interesting
getting some of the DNA
because Dexter Fletcher is also in the movie as one of the crooks,
the street kids that
threatened to mark up Harold's car.
Yeah,
that's how I started out.
That's right. They actually give them money, don't they?
From Great Acorns. Yeah, that's right. It gives him £1 or something. The the guy who's having a sip of the drink, that's Carl Howman. What was the name of the TV show he was in?
Oh, Brushstrokes.
Brushstrokes, that's right. He is still alive.
Yeah,
And
he was. I mean, he used to do, you know, anything from sort of Minder to Minder,
Minder to Minder and
yeah,
Holby, and probably
yeah,
did some episodes of The Bill.
yeah.
We can have a look and see. And then if we look behind, there's Bricktop in the middle.
Yeah, it's nice seeing Bricktop. Recognize that face anyway.
Yeah, and sort of doing I've got a scene exactly like this in the Phil Davis gangster script that I wrote for Phil Davis. I'm a Londoner and I'm proud. And it goes in. There's very young Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, it's nice to see a very young Pierce
playing a homosexual enticement package.
Yeah, great hair.
He was IRA, wasn't he?
He was
playing IRA, yeah.
Member of the IRA. That's the pub that they blew up for real, which was due to be demolished.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah,
especially on a low budget. It's good you got something to burn down.
I did point this out to Matt the other night, but he didn't watch Sharp. But Derek O'Malley is also Hitman number 2 with Pierce Brosnan, who went on to do with Nail and Iron Sharp and played Harper in Sharp, didn't he?
Sergeant Harper, yeah.
Yeah. That's the shot from near the end of the movie, pretty much. Yeah, that's that shot. I won't tell you what happens there, but they're counting money, as we can see.
It was because it was a handmade film. It was George Harrison's production company.
The Beatles, George Harrison from the Beatles, yeah. And it nearly didn't get made, and he stepped in, didn't he?
Yeah. Once again, you know, a little bit of an angel there. Did exactly the same with Life of Brian and many other films.
Just get the money for it.
You know, and in the process created an absolute classic.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's got, and then Nick Stringer, another character actor who would also appear in things like The Professionals. Carl Howman was The Professionals. He was in Foxhole on the Roof. He dressed up as the nurse to go up into the.
Oh my God! Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I just watched Foxhole on the Roof the other day. That's one of the better episodes where they got the machine gun trained on the ward with all the patients.
Yeah.
And they can't get to them, and they're all in critical care. Yeah, that's the scene with Dexter Fletcher. There's a bit of old London for you.
Nice time capsule,
isn't it?
It is a time capsule of a London that's doesn't really exist anymore. Bits of it exist,
but also just a time capsule of an era. Like just seeing the hair and the clothes and the cars of everything. It's especially now. It's a wonderful window into the past. And an authentic window to the past.
Gary Bolter of the Outcasts is here.
Hey, Gary.
I'll drop you the link to the stream if you want to come on and just tell us your thoughts about the Long Good Friday, mate. We would be happy to have you, Gary. I will, the voice of the judge in the play, False Accounts. Gary, I'll send you the link, mate, if you want to come on. So it's in your Facebook chat, mate. So just go to your Facebook Messenger. It is there. Yes, Dexter Fletcher was also Babyface in Bugsy Malone, and I was in a production of Bugsy Malone, but not that one. So so the story is really good. It has a great setup sequence, which I found really confusing. I first saw this on video when I was probably about 14, and everybody was saying it was a good movie. But I first saw a clip of it. I don't know if you remember this, Inside Man, but you know the stuntman who plays the guy at the Demolition Derby?
Yeah.
Don't want to say what happens to him because I don't want to get into spoils. That guy's a very well-known British stuntman, and they did a documentary about him on BBC Two, and they showed that clip of the Long Good Friday. And I thought,
right.
that looks good. I need to see that movie because it's got shooting and action. That's my mentality as a child was fairly limited. So the next chance I got, I rented it out with my friend Paul. Have you got a video recorder, Paul Wilkins? And whose house I always used to go round to on Saturday, and we would rent out 2 or 3 films. And this was one of the days I can't remember what we rented with this, but we rented the Long Good Friday. And we were both like, "Oh, it's a good film." And it's like, it's got this amazing ending. Oh, Matt, you've got to tell me to change the banner, mate. Let me sort that out quickly. We've got the Footsoldier banner on. Here we go. Sorry about that, guys. There we go. Long Good Friday production cast. Oh my dear, have had that up for a few minutes. So, this film has got a very particular ending, and the funny thing is, there was a sequel. A sequel was written. That script exists.
There was. Yeah.
I mean, right. I wouldn't be surprised if you tell me, Inside Man, that you've got a copy of that script. Do you have it?
I don't have a copy of that script, no. But I do have a copy of The Long Good Friday.
So let's read out the information in case people don't know about this. Barry Keefe wrote a sequel, Black Easter Monday, set 20 years after the events of the first film. It opens with Bob Hoskins' character, Harold Shand, escaping from the IRA after the car is pulled over by the police. Shand retires to Jamaica, then returns to stop East End being taken over by Yardies. However, the film was never made. In one of his last interviews, Keefe seemed unconcerned by the lack of development. In some ways, I'm glad we didn't, because sequels are usually diminishing returns. To put it up there with Casablanca, no one wants Casablanca 2.
Yeah, that's
cool.
Pretty well said. That's really
Disney,
well said.
are you listening? Are you listening? No one wants all these wretched sequels.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, I hope they don't listen. Bob Hoskins won an Evening Standard British Film Award for his performance.
He was, but of course he was good. It's Bob
Hoskins. Outstanding.
He was nominated for a BAFTA.
I think he really, I mean, he holds the film together. He's, and I think this is in stark contrast to the other film, The Footsoldier. Talk about a central lead character that keeps you hooked in watching.
I think it's the charisma, isn't it?
Yeah, he is, and he's so likable.
He's smiling in the first shot when he comes back from America.
He's a crook, but you almost don't even think of him as a crook. You just think of him as a businessman but you like him. But even that scene where they you know, all the guys are hanging upside down because they want to get information, and when he realizes that none of them are bad, he's like, all right, let him go. Give him £1,000 each. You know, give him £100 each, and treat him all right. You know. He seems like a decent guy, even though he's in a criminal world. He's a decent guy, and and that means we root for him.
Well, we don't personally see him mete out any violence until quite late in the movie.
No, and then those people betrayed him, so we understand why he's being violent.
So, but of course, there's also that regret, that remorse of what he's done as well.
Oh, you see it straight after he's done it.
Really,
it's almost like
heartbreaking.
Yeah, because he goes, oh, it's almost like, oh my God, I didn't know I was capable of doing that to someone that I once was friends with. Yeah.
But it's, I mean, I love the opening sequence that you mentioned, Lance. The opening sequence. I do apologize. The sequence where we first see Harold coming through the airport, and that great piece of music by Francis Monkman.
Very distinctive.
And guess what, Inside Man?
Well, you've got the vinyl.
I do. I have the vinyl soundtrack to The Long Good Friday.
He's amazing. He's got the vinyl soundtrack to everything.
Well, I don't.
It's amazing how many vinyl soundtracks he's got that all fit in the one box.
Well, they're actually in 3 boxes.
3 boxes.
We have been talking about a lot of 80s films lately. And so, you know, that's when I bought all my vinyls.
Yeah.
It's gone. It's not in this box. It's in the other one. It might be in Matt's suitcase. I might need to check, see if his teeth.
It's not my suitcase. I liked it, but I didn't like it that much.
There's no room in his suitcase, by the way.
Yeah,
I've got 400 Blu-rays in there.
I got plenty of Blu-rays. Don't worry, everyone. I'm not going to do a show and tell without.
I hope you got a good luggage allowance there.
I did. Well, actually, I actually bought another duffel, like a fold-up duffel bag that I could carry with me this big, and then I'll take it home with me this big. So that's true.
What you want to do is put all your pants in the duffel bag.
I think I bought about 21 discs. That's not so many, is it? 21? No.
Well,
that's fair. That's pretty good.
Fair, yeah. I think that's fair.
My ex-wife would say that's a lot.
My wife will say it's a lot too, but you know.
Matt's soon-to-be ex-wife will say that's a lot. No, I mean...
I got some Italian cinema in there. That'll butter her up and keep her happy.
Yeah, I actually tried to watch the Italian... there we go. I've got it.
He's determined to show us his vinyl.
One of the things that this cover reminds me of is... you remember This Is Spinal Tap?
Reminds me of the Long Kiss Goodnight lettering.
Is Spinal Tap brought out the Spinal Tap album. And it was exactly like the Spinal Tap album in the movie, as in it was black and it had nothing written on the front.
Yeah.
The Long Good Friday vinyl album is kind of black with grey lettering on,
Mm.
which is quite unusual. But yeah, and got some nice pickies, production stills, including one of a guy getting shot through the chest. In fact, Councilman Harris, the actor who plays him, we'll talk about a bit more about some of the cast, I think. He is the British submarine commander in The Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he passed away not that long ago. It was a couple of years ago. And he was another person I was thinking, I should really interview him while he's still. Oh, he's gone.
Mm.
So, now this famous scene, the director of photography came up with the idea for this scene because they were filming in this place with these meat hooks. And he said, well, rather than just having our stuntmen hanging upside down, most of them were stuntmen, apart from the poor guy who had the dialogue. Look, things are too good, Harold. Bet he loved hanging upside down like that for a couple of hours. He basically, the cameraman said, "Oh, it'd be great if I could show their point of view. So when we bring them in, why don't you hang me upside down and I'll hang on to the camera?" And he really regretted saying it because it was a proper pain in the ass to shoot. Nearly pulled his arms out of his sockets because back then cameras were very, very heavy.
Very heavy.
Why not just hang the camera on the hook and then walk behind it and sort of guide it?
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't say that, Matt. I guess because the words gimbal and things hadn't been invented, and I think they just wanted it to really be like the POV of a person. So
Yeah,
he was
maybe.
he was hung up.
I would have just hung the camera upside down and guided it. But anyway,
I'm assuming that scene was shot maybe someone at Smithfield's Market, something like that. Smithfield's possibly.
I don't know if there's anything about locations, but I'll have a quick look. Filming locations: St Catherine's Docks, Isle of Dogs, Civic Centre, Dagenham. Not sure. Oh, that would be the town hall scenes.
Yeah.
Heathrow Airport, Harold arriving, Paddington Tube Station, the Savoy Hotel, for the ending scene, visiting the Americans. St George in the East, that's the church where the car blows up.
Yeah.
Ladywell Leisure Centre, Lewisham, that's the murder in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
And that leisure centre is as horrendous as it looks. I went there back in the day. I think it's improved now. Wandsworth Town Hall and Wapping. Probably shot in Wapping, I would have thought.
Yeah.
Probably like an old meat warehouse in Logue.
Yeah. Probably an old abandoned meat warehouse that when stuff used to come in over the ships.
Now here's a funny thing, right? The film was directed by John Mackenzie and produced for £930,000. So it wasn't even shot for £1 million. No. And you think of that budget and what the film has in it, and I mean, it's nothing short of amazing.
It really is amazing. It really is amazing. But it's the quality of the writing that really stands out, let alone the acting. I mean, when you have a script this good, it's almost impossible to screw up. But then you inject these kind of actors into that. It's perfect.
The role of Harold Shand was written for Bob Hoskins, with Bob Hoskins specifically in mind. There are his Hobbit feet, so he could have played one of the Hobbits potentially, maybe like the older one that puts on the ring and disappears. The Ian Holm, he could have done the Ian Holm role. So
wait, give me that ring.
Yeah, sort of. I've been away too long. I put this off too long, mate. I'm off. So so it was written for.
I'd really like to hold it again.
It's not a bad accent, Matt. Not a bad accent. So I mean, it was written specifically for him. You've got Kevin McAnally's in it as a young one of the. Yeah, he's one. I think he's like a young Irish gay guy that gets picked up and.
Yeah.
It's called Gillian Taylor Forth from EastEnders.
Yeah.
She's in it.
And she's still in EastEnders.
Is she still in EastEnders?
Apparently so, yeah.
I have not.
EastEnders still going.
It's funny. It's funny. I was having a conversation about this. Apparently, there are talks to actually axe it, but
is it like Neighbours for England?
It is.
Worse, I'd say.
Right, because they axed Neighbours and then they brought it back.
Yeah.
It's like when they finally axed it, I was like, finally, it feels like the world's moved on, and then they brought it back.
Yeah. So Inside Man, you're actually, now I've done a bit of digging, you're actually right on something. So the film was shot in 79. It was released officially in 1980, but it didn't go on general release until 81. So I think it probably had a London release.
Yeah,
it did. London release 3rd of November. It's back in the day when films were shown at the BFI or Leicester Square only.
Yeah.
And then it didn't get a general release until the 29th of March.
And there is another thing that I seem to recall at the time, and it was a huge thing, which was when it was sold to the American market. Some smart aleck at the American distributors had said, "Oh, there's no way that the American audience are going to understand these kind of accents. So what we're going to do is
redub
dub them into American accents."
Yeah,
they did that with Mad Max.
Yeah, I don't get. I mean, some of these distributors, they really take the audiences for complete fools.
Nothing's changed. They still do. They still do. When I want to make Australian films, they still talk about these accents. You're like, for God's sake. Americans aren't that useless.
By the way, David Macy, they did work for scale. I'm glad somebody hasn't remade it. I've written my own script, which is called 6 Days to Sunday, which is very similar premise. But what I didn't do is try to rewrite or remake The Long Good Friday.
Says Michael Ryan tried to do a remake. No, some things should be left not sequelized, and some things should not be remade.
There's a very young Paul Barber from the Full Monty, as you can see in this scene. He's auditioning for the role of Horse already. But and he gave me Paul Barber gave me my first award at the Liverpool Art and Entertainment Award.
Nice.
He was the actor who presented it to me, and I met him many moons.
He was great in this Horse.
He's a nice guy, really lovely guy. I just also checked that the film only made less than half its budget back on the box office. I'm guessing it probably did some good numbers on video, because everybody seemed to rent this out or own it. At some point.
Well, that was the beauty of the rental and the video store rental era, was that you could, if you didn't do well on the cinema, you had that to follow. They had that coming up the back, so you knew you'd get it back on your rentals.
Do you guys know what the original title of the movie was?
I didn't even know this movie existed until a week ago. No, there's no way I could know.
It wasn't something like someone's been playing Guy Fawkes with our roles.
No, it was the Paddy Factor.
That's right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I remember now.
Called Paddies.
I was going to say, has that got something to do with the IRA?
Yeah. And the Paddy Factor being
I recall.
That was the working title, which I think they wisely.
Yeah, that sounds mildly offensive.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't meant as an endearing term to the Irish back then.
No, and I wouldn't. Don't piss them off.
No.
Not back then.
I think also when you consider that this film was made at the height of the IRA campaign.
Yeah.
The IRA are portrayed. I don't want to say that they're portrayed sympathetically. They're not. They're portrayed quite ruthlessly. They're portrayed ruthlessly, but I would say ruthlessly but professionally.
In terms of competing businesses, let's just
say. They're like a ruthless but professional ruthless.
Oh, they come out. They're very organized. They're more organized than him.
Yeah, because
they're the ones that get him in the end, aren't they?
It's great that the way that they're. So you contrast that by kind of the various bad guys and villains in Rise of the Footsoldier. They keep them very removed from, guys say, well, we had a couple of mix come in, baddies. We had a couple of mix. What mix? And Harold doesn't know these people. He doesn't know who they are. When he comes in and speaks to them at the racetrack near the end of the movie, and we're sort of introduced to three of the top men. Do you mind if we count it? It's about the only line that they say about the money. They're kind of very kind of not ethereal figures, but they're sort of these blurred shades of grey characters in the background, and they're deliberately like that. So it could be anybody in the pub, it could be anybody in the restaurant, any one of their hitmen could be anywhere at any time. These guys are like ghosts, and I really like that, and that's played all the way through the film in the sense he never knows who's coming at him. He can't figure it out.
Yeah, and it's. I think it's that sort of, the audience being drip fed tiny little pieces of information, little nuggets of information, and we're still, in essence, we're trying to fathom things out exactly the same way Harold is trying to fathom them.
That's right.
Right up until we have the reveal when he goes to the grave of the cabbie, and he sees his wife. And that's the pivotal moment.
Puts us into his perspective.
Yeah, completely.
Which makes us empathize more.
Here's an interesting thing. Phil Mahoo, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
He's done a lot.
Yeah, he was the DOP on this. Now the
Very early DOP.
Now the film he did before this was Scum. Right after this, he did Omen 3, The Final Conflict, that's directed by Graham Baker, whose daughter was in my first feature film, Rachel Raymond. And then he did, he was on Who Dares Wins.
Yeah.
And then he did Morons from Outer Space. He did Fourth Protocol.
Yeah.
He did Highlander 2. Oh dear.
He did one of my favorite films of the 90s.
No Escape. GoldenEye. He was the DOP on GoldenEye.
Oh, Mask of Zorro. That's a wonderful. He's worked a lot with Martin Campbell.
Bicentennial Man, Casino Royale, and of course the Smurf movies, which are coincidentally favorite movies of Gary Bolter, and here he is just in time to talk about the Smurf films. So Gary, we're talking about Smurfs and Smurf 2.
We're not. We're talking about
two of your favorite movies of all time. Gary, tell us more.
Well, when I first saw Smurfs 1, Smurfs 2, and Smurfs The Revenge, it changed my life. What can I say? No, actually, The Long Good Friday, and I think it was 82. I first saw The Long Good Friday and Escape from New York, entirely unrelated movies. And
they both dropped on video around the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these were the two movies which I thought, hello, I'd like to do some of this. Watch Bob Hoskins' performances in this one anyway. I just thought, I like this movie business. Because and I thought I'll tap into my own contacts, because my dad was a working cameraman at the time, working on Minder and things like that, and I went from there, and I had a long and illustrious, unsuccessful career,
which led you to
the club,
which led you to the Hollywood Hills of Sydney, Australia.
Indeed.
Where you're soon to be collaborating with Matthew. On your next production, hopefully.
Quite right.
There you go, Gary.
Yeah.
We both learned something tonight.
You and me both, mate.
The thing is, Lance is a brilliant matchmaker.
I am. That's very true.
Brilliant matchmaker.
Well, I'm less than cotton socks. That's what I say.
Bless you. That's very kind, sir. So yeah, you've missed us talking about Rise of the Foot Soldier, which I know you said to me in personal confidence that the limo scene had given you many a sleepless night over. But did you see Rise of the Foot Soldier at all?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Okay, so you can't give that. We're not getting onto ratings out of 10 just yet. So Long Good Friday, big influence on you. Can you give us a Bob Hoskins line or impression?
I can't remember the lines.
Bob Hoskins. David Macy, that must be your connection, mate. We're doing okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah, it must be your connection.
What's your favourite line, Lance?
From The Long Good Friday. Oh, that's a good question.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. I mean, it'll be one of Harold Chan's. I can tell you now. Because there's that. Now he's looking like a raspberry ripple.
Yeah, no. What it is? Was it? There's a lot of dignity in that, and they're going out like a raspberry ripple.
Going out like a raspberry ripple. That's it. Yeah, because they're going to take him out in the ice cream van, aren't they? And that I think that's got to be one of them.
That's a great line.
Yeah. And in fact, funny enough, that's one of the quotes on IMDb. Which is a funny one. I do like Harold's speech. What I'm looking for is someone who can contribute to what England's given to the world.
Yeah.
Culture, sophistication, genius, and fish fingers. A little bit more than an hot dog. You know what I mean? I mean that's a great bit at the end.
Yeah,
And yeah, you know, what the hell was Colin doing with the limousine minicab driver in Belfast? Colin can't drive. Oh, that makes sense. Second question, Belfast, what was he doing there? Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, I know Colin fancies soldiers, but that's taking his buggery a bit far, isn't it? Yeah, you know. So no, there's a lot of good lines.
Yeah, there are.
In the film.
But I don't think there's a wasted line either. I don't think
No,
there's.
no.
I think the
Oh, no,
dialogue
definitely not.
is incredibly economical. But what it does is it moves either character or story, which is
all dialogue should do.
precisely what dialogue should
Yeah.
be doing.
Yeah.
Keith has a complaint. It's for you, Gary. Not a lot of parts for women in the Smurf movies. Gary, any comment on that? What are you going to do to have more female parts in Smurf?
Well, you know, they couldn't make it like they did back in the day. Now they'd have to diversity. The blue Smurf.
I say just swap it
Smurf,
around, just make them all females.
Smurf.
Unless there's one male.
Yeah. I like it when the Smurfs talk.
Mormon Smurfs.
That's a
Oh.
now that's a film.
Mormon
Smurfs. That's a movie. I want burbles with you. That's another Harold line. Inside Man, where and when did you first see the movie?
I actually did first see it on VHS. It was a Thorny MI copy from my local
Yeah,
video
I
store.
remember that. I remember that box.
Yeah, and when the video store closed down, I actually bought that copy off of them, so I still have that.
Wow.
Probably not the exact version, the exact copy that I first watched, but that was where I got it from, a local video store. And the moment I saw it, I thought, wow, this is pretty special. My only complaints with it was P.H. Moriarty. I think he had like 4 lines, and he kind of felt like he fluffed every last one of them. He just didn't. I don't want to be horrible about the guy, but he can't act.
Which one was he?
He was Razors.
Razors
driver.
You know, and it's.
Oh, you mean the guy from Hatchet Harry?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
he played he was in the June TV series.
Yeah, I just
Hatchet Harry from Lock Stock.
Yeah, I just don't think he can act. I think he can act, but he can act badly.
He's the one that
like,
wonder.
he had about 3 or 4 lines, and one of them was it was supposed to be delivered as, that's a right horrible ponce, and he delivers it as, that's a right horrible ponce. And you think, what? That's a right horrible ponce. Oh, come on, mate. Please. Somebody should have given him a line reading on that. And then one of his lines is, but 65 inches of stitching, now you're going to feel what it's like, boy. But it just sounds like an old man saying 65 inches of stitching, now you're going to feel what it's like, boy. And it sounds so wooden. I think another one is, and the Yanks are putting how many million? And the Yanks are putting them in the million. And it's like,
not great diction.
Terrible, and he sounds so wooden. But I'm sure he's a really, really nice guy. I'm sure
he is a nice guy. He came to see one of my plays, so I got to meet him.
Is that scar real?
No, the scar's not quite as. I think he did have a scar, but I don't think it was quite as big as it is in the film.
Right.
Yeah,
I didn't mind him in Hatchet Harry in Lock Stock. He
was great.
He came off as exactly as he needed to be, but it feels like that's probably the only character he'll play. That sort of guy.
Yeah,
he's not going to be a loving grandfather. And
watch him in Jaws. Watch him in Jaws 3, and you'll see what.
I've never seen Jaws 3.
Is he in Jaws 3D: The Revenge?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Oh my God, that was directed by J. Lee Thompson, wasn't it?
Was that J. Lee Thompson?
Was that one of J. Lee Thompson's? They did the 4th one, maybe.
I've never seen Jaws 3. I stopped.
It's
I've seen enough to know I don't want to see it.
One of the worst films I think I've ever seen. It's absolutely terrible.
Simon McCorkindale's in it, isn't he?
Yeah, and I love Simon McCorkindale.
Yeah, I had a chat with him.
It's the one where Jaws gets into the amusement park.
The amusement park, the underwater thing. Gary's got a brief role as a pool cleaning attendant in it.
Really?
He gets eaten pretty quickly, I think.
It was a rough scene.
Yeah. What wasn't your line? Are those teeth? Ah! Something like that. I think it was in there. Yeah. Well, we could do. You know what? We should do. That's a good idea for a stream. Top 5 worst movies ever, whatever genre.
Yeah.
That would be.
Do you know that's probably going to be even tougher than best.
I totally agree. That's a harder call.
Yeah.
I think we have to
there's-
define it. We have to narrow the
You have
window.
to have the criteria. I mean, so bad you couldn't get through it, or so bad they become cult classics.
Yeah.
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 The so bad it's irredeemably bad. You can't watch it.
So
Yeah.
bad that you never wanted to see it again. You wanted to walk out, or you couldn't get through it.
Yeah.
I think it's one
So
way.
bad that if you could have a Man in Black stick and flash your memory and erase it from your brain, you would.
Then you have things like The Humanoid, which is just so laughably bad that you want to track down the Blu-ray with all the special
and you
features.
can actually get some amusement out of it. But
Yeah.
the ones where they're so bad, you don't even have that factor.
I
Yeah,
can't.
the-
Gary,
the-
was
the
that
kind of-
you or Richard Keel as The Humanoid? I can't remember.
Kill.
Richard, yeah, you and Richard Keel look quite similar. So was it you or Richard Keel in The Humanoid? I
Right.
forget.
Got
Okay.
a role for that in his biopic, obviously.
Yeah. I think they got your pictures mixed up on IMDb once. Sorry, Inside Man, you were going to jump in.
Yeah, I was going to say it should be if only I could unsee ...
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. If only I could unsee it. That's a new segment.
Yeah.
If only I could unsee it.
That's a good one. Gary, you must have loads of those, and I must be in at least half of those.
Oh gosh, I think I was in one of those. I can't even see it.
Quite possibly.
Yeah, well, it hasn't been released. It's probably a good thing. Although I keep telling the director to release it, it will probably rival Tommy Wiseau's The Room. But anyway,
Tommy Wiseau's The Room, really? It's
yeah,
gonna
and
rival
I mean
that.
that with love.
What part do you play in this prestigious celluloid offering, Gary?
Oh, it's. I mean, it'll never get released, but it's.
All the more reason to tell us.
It is. It's a. I shall tell you one story, which was hilarious. It's a story. It's called First Detectives.
Does that mean you're telling us about the role you play?
Yeah. And I played one of the lead characters, a detective role. I'm set in the 1850s. I'll give you one story. It was the whole crux thing about the movie is 4 detectives. I'm one of them. Bust open a baby farm in the 1850s. Now, you don't know what a baby farm is. That is where young women who have accidents go to take care of them, and they are all sort of, the kids are looked after there, and so the whole thing is the detectives bust in, save all the malnourished kids, and save the day basically. So what happened on the day of shooting is they booked a old warehouse, and I think it was in Hull. We flew there. Well, when I say flew, they flew the Australians out to film it in England.
So this was shot in Hull in England, not like Hull in Australia.
Hull. Yeah. We filmed some of it in
I don't know
Tasmania.
about Hull in Australia.
Okay.
Some of it in Tasmania and some of it in England. And
But you didn't get to come to England.
I did.
When was this?
That's about 5 years ago.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you then. Fair enough.
I didn't know the man. So this is the big climax of the film. The detectives bust in, save all the malnourished children. Here's the thing: they forgot to book the kids, and sort of like somebody forgot to confirm the kids. So this is the big climax of the movie. The detectives bust in. Ha! We're saving the day. No kids, and I kid you not. This actually happened. The first or the location manager thought, shit, I've got an idea. Ran out onto the street, and any families that were coming along with children said, would you like to come and be in this movie?
Oh my God. That's a good way to have some legal problems.
But a couple said yeah. So they came along with the kids, and
they came along and saved 2 malnourished children who looked reasonably well fed.
2 amazingly one malnourished, but amazingly well fed, almost quite large children.
Right. 2 incredibly fat kids.
For rather large children, we burst in, and the very large, well-fed, healthy-looking children were saved.
Could a line have been like written in that maybe the kids were surviving on hamburgers from McDonald's alone?
Oh yeah, it was
not in the 1800s.
How were not in the 1850s?
How were the recently acquired child actors with their newfound fame in the shots? Did they
haven't been released?
Sounds like they should have changed. They needed to turn to digital or something.
Yeah. So anyway, that
like
was
clone the kids in post.
They should have just done a reverse shot with the kids back in Australia in a sort of reasonably matching looking wall or something.
Oh, it was
cut to black. Title: They rescued the kids.
Yeah.
Go home.
The kids are in the adjacent room. I'll go and get them. Good. You do that. Hey, kids, and then voice of kids. Don't see the kids.
Yeah.
You know.
But anyway,
that sounds like it's going to be a strong contender for I don't see it.
I keep saying release it. It'll be a cult hit.
Is it called When Gary Met Sally?
Oh, it's called The First Detectives.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and the only reason it's got an IMDb page is because I actually made the producer sit down in front of IMDb and make one.
All right. So, is it up there with Neil Breen quality?
Oh, Neil Breen.
Yeah.
Neil Breen.
Yeah,
no, Neil Breen's a special category of his own.
He's a special needs man. All right. That's for sure.
His brand of filmmaking is all his own.
Yeah. Heads would roll on David Macy's sets. He's so adamant about that. He wrote it twice. Well, that's an interesting story. Back to the Long Good Friday, where no malnourished kids were needed.
We should probably give our ratings.
What do we give this film out of 10? Gary Bolter,
an easy 8 out of 10 for me.
It's a what?
8 out of 10 for me.
8 out of 10 for Gary. Okay. Inside Man, what would you give it?
This is a 9.5 for me.
Okay. And Matthew Holmes?
I'm going to say it's a 7.5 for me.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please elaborate further.
Okay. Well, you got to remember, I do not have any nostalgic attachment to this story, and I've never seen it before.
No.
So I'm viewing it only through the lens of this is a new film to me.
Yeah.
So I don't have, so I found because it is an older film from an older time. I found myself forgiving a fair bit because of its age, but knowing that in context of its time, how good this film would have been.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have that. I'm not going to be as forgiving of the areas that it's aged, with photography and music and sound and things like that. It is dated only in the sense that it was made in the 70s. But I still see that, it's got amazing performances, a top script, and it's a very entertaining movie. It
only scores 7.5.
That's not a bad score.
Okay, I'd give it a 10 out of 10.
That's a 75%.
It's a 10 out of 10 from me.
Yeah. I mean, it's very difficult to find flaws with it, and the only reason that I would knock off 0.5 is because of P.H. Moriarty. Other than that, it's a 10. I mean, it's for me. This is up there with Get Carter. But I mean, these are 2 classic British gangster movies. But Lance, I agree with you.
Carter,
you're 10 out of 10. Maybe it's.
I mean, I don't like Get Carter as much as this film. I'd give Get Carter a lower score because the bleak ending. I mean, this has got a bleak ending too. But
was that because she was only 16? See what I did?
Yeah, very good. No, I don't know. I think this film is just a bit more gripping, and the supporting characters are more interesting. Whereas
Yeah.
Get Carter is very much Michael Caine's movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not just Bob Hoskins' movie. It's also Derek Thompson. It's also
Yeah.
you know,
Helen Mirren.
Helen Mirren's
Brian Hale as well.
yeah.
But it's I mean, it is very difficult to find fault with it. Maybe it's because it's something that both you and I did grow up with. Maybe there is that, and you know, we both saw it at pretty much a similar kind of age.
Yeah, you saw it. You saw it at the right time. Like you, it's like when
in its day. Yeah,
you
we
saw it
in
its day. Yeah, it's like us with Star Wars, like the original, like the '77 Star Wars. We watch it in awe, and we give it all thumbs up. But if you were to show it to someone now, like out of context of it being 40 years later, you show it to someone, they're gonna see the antiquity of it.
Yeah,
I think for me, that's what I found a little bit hard for it to grip me. It was because there is an antiquity to this film because of its age.
But
it's brilliant. Still shines through.
Yeah, I mean, I always like. If I'm honest with you, I always like those kind of, those things that sort of date stamp a movie. You know, that you have something that's made in an era, and you know that it's in that era. I do like that. That's why sometimes I do forget. I find it unforgivable when some producers, directors, writers come up with something that's supposed to be set in the 80s or supposed to be set in the 70s, and it's so wildly inaccurate.
No, it doesn't look like it at all. What's good about it? This is very much the time. It's a time capsule thing.
It is a time. It's precisely
and it's so authentic. And there is just, I mean, on a technical level, there was just a few things. Like there was just some editing that I just found a little bit clunky. Just little things like that are just really, again, that's just the antiquity of its time. Some of the lighting was a bit flat and things like that. So it's just, they're just those little technical things that I think. But I can also see that this is not a very high budget film either. So you kind of forgive it those things. But as for someone coming in like me, seeing this 40 years after the fact, it's not going to stick with me as much as I think it's stuck with those growing up with it.
I mean, I think Lance, see this. I'm sure Lance would agree with this, that it has, for us in particular, for Lance and I, it has a rewatchability factor that will outstrip so many other movies of its time. Certainly so many other British movies of that particular time, because not long after this, we had, I think it was about 83, 84, there was this big thing when the Brits suddenly hit Hollywood, and the whole Chariots of Fire thing, and Colin Welland's the Brits are coming kind of thing. And we had British Film Year, and in British Film Year I think we only actually released 3 movies in British Film Year. There were only 3 major movies that were actually distributed internationally. So that's that's pretty poor. We did have a real dry period.
British Film Year was 1985.
85.
It was 1985, and I have a feeling, I want to say, but I must be wrong about that. But the Brighton Film Festival ran for a couple of years, and then it died on its arse.
Yeah.
I think that might have been the first year that it ran. I went there. I think it was in '88. Because I saw Henry V there, I saw When Harry Met Sally there, I saw The Fourth Protocol there, and a couple of other things. But 85 was the year of British film. Brazil was one of the big ones for that year. That I mean, it's done a lot better now than it has then. Letter to Brezhnev. Do you remember Letter to Brezhnev?
Yes, I do. Letter to Brezhnev. Yeah, lovely film.
Morons from Outer Space.
Yeah.
My Beautiful Laundrette. Yeah, that was Morons from Outer Space was terrible. Why put Mel Smith and Griff Rhys-Jones in a movie and they keep them apart for the whole film when the best thing they do is when they're together? It was also the year of Room with a View, Shooting Party, Supergrass did very well in the UK. The Comic Strip Presents first proper movie.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, that was sold
Did
out
it?
when I went to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wild Geese 2, not a successful film.
Yeah.
Oh, Matt saw the Wild Geese for the first time last night. What would you give that out of 10? What would you give that out of 10?
8 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Again, there's an antiquity to it because of its age, but no, it was a great little film. Yeah, really
good.
Yeah,
good.
I can and especially again looking at it in context of its time, I can see that it would have been a real, like, with its violence and the depictions of violence, it would have been quite ahead of its time.
He definitely got a pang when Richard Harris got shot running for the plane.
Yeah. I like Richard Harris.
Matt winced at that point.
It is one of those like, please make it. But I knew it. I know. Well, as soon as the scene was there, I was like, he's not going to make it, is he? He's not going to make it.
Gary playing the Sergeant Major in that film, I thought was good in the Wild Geese.
Quite. I've done a lot of films now.
I know. I'm just increasing your repertoire, Gary. In the remake, that's definitely a Gary role. Yeah, okay. So Longer Friday. Well, pretty good marks all round. If you haven't seen the film, you definitely should. Because if you want to see a sort of, I don't think, has there been a British gangster film that's better than this? I have to say no. There's been some good other gangster films.
There've been some good gangster films, but they're not really like this. I would say Lock, Stock is a good gangster film, but it's nothing like this.
Tonally it's good. It's tongue in cheek, so it's totally different.
It's almost a different genre.
I absolutely adore Lock, Stock. Absolutely adore it, but I would call it more of a caper movie. For me, it's more of a caper
comedy.
Film. Yeah. And one of my favorite ensemble casts of all time. I love the boys in that. Sting, it could have done without, personally.
But then his wife produced it, so he got a bit.
Yeah.
He wasn't in enough to sort of send it off the rails.
Just don't think he can act for toffee, to be honest with you.
I quite liked him in June.
No. But it was just the boys, I think, were great. Let's just say his range is quite limited.
Yeah, well, he's a singer, for God's sake. It's like, stick to the singing. Stick to the singing, Sting.
Yeah.
Leave the acting to the actors.
Please.
Leave the singing to the actors shouldn't sing and singers shouldn't act. They are a separate.
Yeah. There are very few singers that can step into an actor's shoes, I think.
It's a different discipline.
So we've got
great singer.
So we've got some other interesting streams coming up. We're doing Dredd versus Judge Dredd.
We're doing the Dreads.
But I think we've already booked that in. Did we book that in? Let me just
Carl Urban one all the way.
It is booked in.
Gary, no spoilers. We'll hear your opinion on it then if you jump on the stream, and not before, thank you.
Well, listen, Lance. Before we actually do that, what I'll do is I'll go through my call sheets and scan them and zip them over to you, so you can just have a look at
the
some
Judge
of the breakdowns of
Dredd
scenes. Yeah. So you can see exactly what what scenes were shot on what day and what kind of things were. It's funny because when I was looking through them, actually, I'd forgotten at the back of some of the call sheets. They actually have crossword puzzles, so for the down moments, which is quite
when you're
good.
waiting for Sly to arrive on set.
Yeah.
I mean, so we're going to do those. Look, I was on set of Dredd, so Inside Man's got some stories. There's going to be some interesting things. Gary probably played a role in it. Don't know which one yet, but I'll come up with something by the time we do the stream. We're also doing another stream. We're doing the first of our kind of favorite director streams. So we're going to be doing streams about favorite directors, and the first favorite director we're picking is Michael Mann, who did Heat.
Wow.
Heat, Last of the Mohicans, Collateral, The Insider, to name but a few. We're definitely going to be doing his top three. I think we're doing our top three films of his and 2 near misses, which would have been in the top 5.
What about The Keep?
I've got that. I've got
Fine film.
I haven't seen The Keep, so I can't comment.
It-
I haven't
it's,
seen every Michael Mann film. That's one thing I
The
can't.
Keep is an
confess.
oddity. It's got some things to commend it for, but it is an odd film.
I really would like to hunt
Definitely.
down Thief. I'd really like to see Thief.
It's
hold on.
the Keep is definitely Ian McKellen's weirdest performance, I think.
Right.
Yeah,
Strange performance.
Yeah.
But quite a nice. If you like Tangerine Dream, then you'll like the soundtrack.
Wow.
yeah. I mean, the soundtrack is. I find the soundtrack a bit too intrusive in that film.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't fit. I think he was kind of going for a little bit of a sorcerer sort of
Yeah,
vibe when he chose Tangerine Dream to do that.
yeah,
Sorcerer's in the film about the trucks.
Yeah,
yeah.
I just bought that
which
film.
incidentally it does actually open on trucks, I believe, as well. So you kind
Yeah.
of get that sort of
The convoy.
vibe for it. Yeah,
Convoy
Mm.
arriving in the time. The
Yeah.
music in that opening sequence is good. That kind of
Mm.
dun 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 dun.
Mm.
I like that. It's more subtle, but then they get into those big kind of like electronic set pieces, and I'm like, and
Yeah.
when those two soldiers are like digging the crossing out, let's find more silver.
Yeah,
And that's a British actor playing that part as well. It's
yeah.
quite an unusual role for him.
Are you talking stuff that we should be talking when we talk about
We'll
Michael
talk
Mann?
about it when we talk about Michael Mann.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt's keen to get sleep. He's got to travel to Exeter tomorrow.
Off to Exeter, yeah.
Off to Exeter. So
on the
it's a
train,
safe
I got a
journey.
3.5-hour train ride to Exeter. So
it's the
Safe
final
journey, mate.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's the final night in the Nielsen location. So Gary, what you got coming up? What feature films can we look forward to? How's that Rolling Napoleon coming on the Ridley Scott?
Can I just say beautifully, what a wonderful time on set. And
Yeah.
yes, I think I played the 12th horseman in the 5th regiment, way just over the hill where you just can't
Right.
see me.
Well, we saw you in the trailer, so we
Yeah.
there's Gary.
Yeah,
There's
falling
Gary.
through
That
the
was me.
ice.
Mhm.
Falling through the ice.
Yeah,
falling
just
through the ice.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
looking
There you
forward to
go.
looking forward to hearing those on-set tales. Listen, guys, great having you both on, and here with Matt for the final time
Thank you.
for his visit. This will be
Yeah.
his final one on the studio, as it were.
Yeah, but I'll be back in my own little box next time.
Yeah, he'll be back in the box.
David Macy says, "Am I going to Yorkshire?" No,
You're not. You're not.
No, I'm not going to
Unfortunately.
Yorkshire.
No, Matt's schedule is pretty packed. In fact, we were going to try and fit in a drinking night with the Critical Drinker, but we can't due to various conflicts, which is annoying. But there we are. Brogu has said, Matt, was nice meeting you. I have a parting gift for you. Once a cobra bit Chuck Norris's leg. After 5 days of excruciating pain, the cobra died. Safe travels, Matthew.
Oh, Chuck.
Yeah.
He's indestructible.
I mean, highlights of your trip was one of those watching Invasion USA with me, possibly.
Oh, you know what? I'd kind of forgotten about Invasion USA.
Yeah, you'd forgotten about it.
I
already.
think all the British films and all the other really good films kind of pushed that one to the back of my mind. But thank you for reminding me about Invasion USA.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
I think my opinion of Chuck Norris and his brand of film, remains pretty much intact.
Yeah,
we're like, it didn't bump the notch up, it didn't lower it, they just kept it exactly where it was. So it is again, I didn't see that film in its time. So anyway, some things you just got to see in its time.
Yeah,
there you go.
Right.
Well, but Matt has said that next time he's going to be out in a shopping mall, he's going to look at suspicious men with bulges in their leather jackets in a whole new light, due to that action scene with the terrorists in the shopping mall. If there's any shopping malls left,
I can't even remember that.
Most of them.
I can't even remember that scene.
Not supposed to say that. You're supposed to say, "Oh yeah, that really freaked me out. Now I've got to look out for terrorists." So there's no snakes on the plane, Matt. He's going on a train.
I'm going on a train, so hopefully
the sequel. Snakes on a train.
There's got to be some train movies. What's some good train? Before
Runaway Train, Silver Streak,
Under Siege 2, Silver Streak.
Yep. Before sunrise.
Train to Busan.
Runaway Train.
The Great Train
Runaway
Robbery.
Train.
Yep. Girl on a Train.
Snakes on a Train.
Back to
Gary
the Future
Bolter's
3.
definitely in that one. Snakes on a Train.
How to Train Your Dragon.
Hey, that's too clever. That's too
Boom.
clever.
Training Day.
Hey, yeah,
Training
God, can't keep up with this guy.
That's not set.
Thank you everyone
on a
for wishing
train.
me your good, my safe travels. I'm sure I'll have good time seeing Scotland and Ireland. I can't wait to get to Ireland to see back to where my ancestors come from, Ireland. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
It's my island.
It's mine. Yeah,
it's mine.
It's yours.
It's mine.
Jesus.
That's a good line from Braveheart. Guys, thanks for tuning in. People, thanks. There's been 6 people watching the whole time. Do check out the other stuff on the channel. I'll be back on Tuesday, hopefully with the Inside Man talking about something. We did have an idea planned for next Tuesday. I can't remember what it is.
You're talking about things because I can't talk about. It's something. It was movies that I don't know about. Was it Spartacus?
Oh, we are going to do we're going to do a Spartacus season 1 and maybe like an episode 1 watch party thing. I don't have a poster for that yet, man.
Don't you?
No.
Oh, I'll get the rest of the scripts over to you, by the way.
Matt and Gary, my 2 poster guys, they're both here. What good timing.
I'm on holiday.
Oh yeah. Okay,
Yes,
Gary, I'll be emailing you shortly.
And I'll be emailing you an online course to Photoshop.
I gave him a course on
editing. I've got
DaVinci Resolve this week, so he can start editing his own stuff.
So
get out of town.
Gary, do you use DaVinci Resolve?
I Premiere.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, make the transition, mate. Honestly, do it. I've used Premiere. I've used all of them, and DaVinci is. Mwah.
You bought it, or you just use the free one?
The basic version is free.
I've got the full big version that came with the camera, the black magic camera that I shot the cost on.
You didn't say you had the full big version. I thought you were using the free version, like me.
No, I bought a freaking camera. I get the whole bells and whistles. But look, your version does everything you need anyway.
Okay, this is true.
Well, there you go.
That's a good thing about DaVinci. You get nearly the whole thing. So
my version does everything that Gary needs to do for me in the edit. That's very true. Okay, good. So, guys, thanks so much for coming on. Those people, thanks for watching. I am on next Tuesday with Inside Man talking about something. We'll decide in the interim. We've got a whole load of streams planned. We are going to do a top 5 true story films, British.
Ooh,
we're going to do a top 5 true story miniseries, British, and then we're going to do both of those categories American as well.
It's getting very specific.
I'm very into my, but there's loads of choices. You think, and I wrote a list out for my good friend Matthew to design me a poster, so I'm looking forward to getting those. And there's a lot of choices. David Macy, Snowpiercer is not a true story. Just going to tell you that now. It's a good comic though.
I think he's catching up on the train thing.
On the train thing, yeah. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We will see you again real soon. I'll be back around the same time on Tuesday, the usual slot. Don't normally do the streams on Thursday. I'm going to be doing a review of Oppenheimer as soon as I've seen it. So look out for a gut reaction review on Oppenheimer, and then probably when Matt's seen it as well, we might actually do a more in-depth discussion. But I'll be doing a short gut reaction review about that as soon as I've seen it. Until then. Until Tuesday, see you all again real soon.
Yeah. Cheerio.
And guys.